Hi, everyone. Nicole here with another episode of MAP TV and My Line Purpose, the podcast. Really looking forward to today's conversation because I get to chat with somebody that their topics are right up there with what my personal interests and passions are. And today you are going to hear from Karla. Now, I've actually never met Karla until today in this moment, but the way I got connected to Karla and have been loving her content ever since was I actually saw somebody that I know within our community interview Karla on an IGTV last summer. And I was like, this woman's energy is what I am vibing with. So I've been following along for the past year, and now I can't wait to dive in and learn more. So welcome, Karla. Thanks for being here. And can you please tell us all where you're calling in from, a little bit about who you are, and what seems to be lighting up your life at this moment in time?
Hi. Okay, first of all, thank you for having me after we had all of our technical difficulties. I got stung by a wasp before we came on here, and then we had troubles logging in. But you know what's funny is I realized we started at 11:11.
Oh, I love that.
Everything happens as it should. So my name's Karla Garcia. I am from Clearwater, Manitoba, not to be confused with Clear Lake or Clearwater up north. It's a small farming community, pretty south. And I live here with my husband and my two dogs. And I just retired from hairstyling that I was doing full time. I had my own salon in my house, and I decided to take on my spiritual work full time. So that includes things like life coaching, tarot and oracle card reads, and teaching courses. So what's lighting me up right now? I'm loving life coaching. I think it's so fun. I love to help people. I love to work through things with people, even just hold space if someone needs someone to talk to about really anything. The topics that my clients and I talk about are all different, but that's really lighting me up right now.
Okay, I love that. I mean, in My Aligned Purpose, our company, we are on a mission to support women to exit their 9 to 5s that aren't fulfilling. If you are in a 9 to 5 and you love that, that's incredible. But if there's been something else like whispering, pulling, screaming at your heart, then we are all in to make that happen. So you saying, you know what, this has been a passion of mine and I've loved it, but it's time to close that chapter and I'm ready to go all in on the things that really light me up. I'd love to know, Karla, I know that you are in the world of intuitive, of psychic intuition, of, like you said, tarot, oracle. Has this always been a part of you, or when did you discover like, I can do this and I really like it?
That's a good question. Okay. So I feel like I've always been spiritual, and I think like everyone's spiritual. It's just whether you're willing to tap into it or if you know how to tap into it, right? But I've been seeing and talking to spirits since I was small. Like my mom remembers when I don't know if I was like 3 or 4, and my cousin who was 25 at the time, she actually died. And I would talk to my mom and say, oh, like Dana comes and talks to me. Like she comes and talks to me. And I was telling her mom this too. And they were all freaked out. And like, they were like, and it was less understood, I think, and maybe more stigma with it back then. But I've always had encounters. So it started with mediumship, I would say, but like I didn't mean to, right? It just, and children are more intuitive and they are more susceptible to taking that on and not knowing that it's like wrong, right? And then when I was 12, so I kind of shut it off because I was scared, honestly.
Yeah.
Once I realized I should be scared of it, right? Because I wasn't before that. And then when I was 12, you remember those Y2K magazines?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I had one of those, and inside, like the centerfold was tarot cards, but they were like cutout ones, like little mini.
Oh, yeah.
I still have them. So I cut them out and I started playing with them. Like I didn't know really what to do with them. I just had this article in the magazine and started playing with them and thought they were so fun. But because I grew up with my dad being Catholic, stuff like that was evil and wrong, right? So yes, so I hid it. Like I hid that for a long time and I just kind of dabbled here and there, but it was something that really drew me in. Then it started, so after that, I kind of like would take a break and I would do it and I would take a break, but it was really secret. Like I didn't even tell my friends. I just thought I was weird, right?
Mm.
And I remember sitting on my mom's computer. I don't know how old I was, like when computers were still like huge and it was, you had one family computer with like dial up, right? And I remember researching different things on spirituality with whatever was out there. And I remember finding numerology
Mm.
and being like, this is so freaking cool. And then it led into astrology. Wow, like this is crazy. And I would go to the library and I would read books on this stuff. And once again, I don't know why I didn't tell anyone. It was just maybe feeling shame, but even though no one had actually said that to me.
Yeah. And because it's when you're a teenager, and like teenagers are just wired to fit in, to find their
Oh,
identity.
absolutely.
So I can totally relate. I remember a girlfriend and I watched The Craft, and then we were like,
Oh yeah.
we want to make our own candles and
Such a good movie.
spells and different things. And we'd be in her room like melting wax and like trying to do her own thing.
Oh, very witchy.
Very witchy, yeah. And but that wasn't common.
No,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't. So yeah, it came with its own stigma. And I feel like, yeah, if you're aware of it when you're a teenager, yeah, you're right. You just want to fit in, you want to be like everyone else. And that wasn't like everyone else, and it wasn't mainstream, right? So I just would study it here and there. Like I would go to the library, I would look up stuff on the internet. I remember looking up stuff at school when I should have been like writing a paper. I don't know. And then I completely took a break from it, like probably after high school, I would say. And then a couple years went by and I moved to Regina and I met, how old was I? Maybe like 22.
Okay.
And I met like someone who did my nails.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, you are so psychic. And I was like, what do you, she's like, this is crazy. What are you doing? Like, you're not using your gifts or anything. I'm like, I don't know. I was just kind of freaked out at that point in time because that's when I had my first like spiritual awakening. And if you know about spiritual awakenings, you can have multiple of them because they don't ever end. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have them until you die, basically. Like they're just these big grand awakenings where you have realizations and things can change in your life. And this is when my first one happened. And I don't know if you have had like a big one where it affects your third eye.
Yeah, it up levels your consciousness.
Oh my God.
Like all of
It
a
was
sudden things are brighter
throbbing.
and you're existing. You're like,
Literally,
oh,
yes. And I didn't know how to control it. I didn't know what was happening. It was like throbbing all the time. I was having like almost like existential crisis type situations. Like, what am I doing here? Like, what is my purpose? And then I started working with her. Like, she was very, very knowledgeable. Her name's Tara Lee. And then I attended a class with her. My mom and I did like an oracle card um kind of like psychic senses class, and it was so fun. And then after that, I was like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
mm,
But I didn't know fully how to control it. Like I was still learning that. So I didn't know how to shut it off. So in the middle of the night, like spirits would come and like try and talk to me. And that was hard because it was scary, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I want to help them, but this is kind of inappropriate. Like, this is the middle of the night. Like, I'm trying to sleep. And I
mhm.
remember going to a psychic, and her name was Annie. And she said, this is like, was life changing for me. I walk in and she goes, oh, there's like a man following you. And I said, I know, he won't go away. Like, I don't even know who this is. Right. And
Mm.
she's like, oh, I think like what he's telling me is that was your brother from a past life and he's kind of like one of your guides or whatever. And I said, okay, but he's literally waking me up in the middle of the night. He's making noises
Disruptive.
turning on my TV. He was like standing over me one night, like looming over me. And it wasn't like, now I look back, I'm like, he wasn't being scary, but it came off that way. Right. And
Absolutely.
she said, oh, just tell him to go away. And I said, sorry, like, what do you mean? She goes, well, you are the one alive. This is your realm. You're the one in power. They have to respect your wishes. And so I said, okay, I don't want you here. Please go away. And he left.
Just like you can call in a guide, right? Like a guides and angel support system. Please come support me in this moment. And also, I'm good now. Thank you.
Yes, I know. And I couldn't believe how much that it changed my life, because then from then on, I was able to really control when they come to me, like how long they're around me, like not just in the middle of the night. They come in the middle of the night because that's when you're quiet. That's when you're not on your phone. That's when you're not talking. But I was able to say, okay, like when I'm working, like when I'm at my desk, when I'm at my office, like if I call you in or talk to you, like you can come in. Other than that, this is my boundary. You need to respect it. And if not, you need to leave. And like like I said, I can't believe how much that changed my life. So if anyone's out there struggling right now with spirits, talking to them, following them, wanting attention, because that's all they want. They want to talk, they want attention. You just tell them to leave, and they have to.
Yeah, and I think that is insightful, because it can feel scary, especially if it's not something you've asked for. Some people invite the spiritual counsel in and say, yeah, I would love your presence right now. But if that's not something you're inviting in, and the energy is there, the energy is there, then yeah, that can feel quite scary. So I appreciate you offering that to anybody who's listening. And I think the majority of people that we personally magnetize towards myline purpose are those that believe in other realms of consciousness and inviting in spiritual guidance and support. So yeah, I think what you just shared can be really helpful.
I really do hope it helps people. And I think like with this particular man or spirit that was following me, it wasn't like he was a part of my spirit team, but he had actually like come into our realm, because usually they would be vibrating at a higher frequency. We couldn't see them, we couldn't feel them, but all of a sudden, he's in the 3D. And then that's when it got scary, because it's not like, it is actually more normal than you think, but then it's not normal, especially to people that don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So Karla, let's talk about, so we got to hear a little bit about your journey and how you got to be into this particular season of life, like where you're doing exactly what you love to be doing. And I know that some of the conversation pieces that you lead in those that you're coaching and just things that you're really passionate about talking about are the concept of love and different energies that love can carry, like twin flames and soulmates. And I personally feel like I only heard the concept twin flame maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I'd always heard of soulmate. So for those listening, are you able to give us a little rundown of like the differences, what they mean? Yeah, that could be helpful.
Yes, I sure can. Okay, so I have also been studying this for years, and there's so much information out there, and it can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of false information. There's a lot of like fear-mongering information, and I try and go into it with like a very neutral standpoint of what these relationships are. So before you come here, you sign contracts, thousands of contracts. Yes, I'm going to meet Karla and we are going to learn blank, blank, blank from each other. Perfect. That is our contract. Yes, I'm going to meet my husband and we are going to learn this for each other. And it's probably going to last this amount of time, or it will be, a forever relationship, those types of things. So soulmates can be so many different things. That's friends. That's someone you meet and you're like, I know you, like, you've been interactive in a past life. Those are pets, like animals that you meet, you're just drawn to. Those can be family, and they can also be romantic relationships. So from my understanding, and this has changed recently, so I have two, maybe three different episodes about this, and it's changed. So I believe that technically pretty much everyone that's in your life, your soul family, those are all soulmates, but they're all here for different reasons. So someone would say a karmic. Have you ever heard of a karmic? Yeah, so that was a karmic relationship. They're a karmic. Yeah, they were still a soulmate, but you had to learn a really tough lesson from them. You know, like that friend that screws you over, that boyfriend who cheats on you, right? That was a karmic relationship. They were still technically a soulmate, but it was just a deeper, maybe tougher lesson to learn. And you are also someone's karmic.
Yeah.
So that's also something that's changed with time as well. I was like, dang, I never thought about that. Like, I was also there to teach someone a really tough lesson, and like many people, right?
Yeah.
And the concept of twin flames has been around since literally like the beginning of time. It goes back to Greek mythology, where Zeus, the creator, God source, whatever you want to say, created man with two heads, four arms, four legs, and one heart, one soul. And so when he created man, and I'm saying this term loosely, obviously, created this human, this being, he saw it over time getting stronger and stronger. And Zeus was like, no, I'm God. You are not going to be stronger than me. So he took a lightning bolt and he struck in between man and split them into two. And then he threw them down to earth. And so the theory is that you will be forever looking for your other half, your twin flame.
Oh, I've never understood it in that way. And that is in a romantic sense?
Okay, so this is also another thing that is still kind of like no one really knows, right? We all have our theories and things like that, but what I personally believe is yes, they are romantic, because there's a reason why they're called flames. It burns. It's not always pleasant. And the twin idea is because you were one at one point, right? There's only one. You don't have multiple twin flames. There's only one for everyone. Some people say not everyone has one. I don't believe that. I just maybe believe that not everyone, first of all, comes into contact with them in this life. And sometimes you're just not reincarnated at the same time, or it's not time yet to meet them. So it is actually quite rare to actually meet yours. And then just because you've met them doesn't mean you're actually supposed to end up with them, which is a huge misconception. But like I said, that's what I personally believe. And a lot of people will confuse a karmic relationship. So it's a very tumultuous, tough lessons, sometimes abusive, to a twin flame, because they both burn, but they burn in different ways. Where what a twin flame's purpose is to absolutely like catalyst your spiritual development and what gives you your first awakening, which when I met mine in 2012, then after I moved to Regina, that's when I had my awakening.
Oh, interesting. And so, so you shared at the beginning that you live with your husband and two dogs. So what would you classify your husband as a particular energetic contract to you?
Yeah, so we would definitely be soulmates and not karmic at all, because this is like the first relationship in my entire life that has not been tumultuous or like crazy or abusive in my entire life. Like I have always had those really crazy type of relationships. And for this, I feel like this is a really deep bond, soulmate connection where we can, yes, still learn a lot from each other, but it's very safe. And it feels good. And there's not a lot of ups and downs. It's more stable.
That's exactly how I feel in my partnership with my fiance, and how we both feel. We're both like, wow, what a journey to get here to one another. And and it's so interesting when, hindsight is always 2020. When I reflect back on previous relationships, it's like, yes, when you have an understanding that everything happens for a reason, and those, were karmic contracts, or those were meant to happen as they were. But it's kind of like, why the fuck was I choosing that person? Like, why am I doing this to myself? Repeated pattern. Like, they're all very similar. And then who I'm with now, we're engaged to be married. It's like, he's nothing like anybody else I've ever dated. So like, what was the switch for me? And I feel like last summer, my partner and I met last October, so almost a year ago. And last summer, I was going through, oh my gosh, I felt like dark night of the soul for months on end. I had come out of a breakup that it wasn't like I wasn't mourning the loss of that person. It was like, why do I keep putting myself in these situations to feel this way? And then from that recovery, it's like, oh, okay, thank you for finally gifting me somebody that is like, yeah, we move one another forward.
Yes. And I also want to go back to that. I think that's amazing because a lot of people somehow think like, I'm not going to find that. I'm not going to find that. But you know how I talked about those thousands of contracts that you have, even just in passing with someone, but there's sometimes no time limit. So it's not like maybe for your ex, you were with them for a year. It's not like, yes, we're going to be together for 1 year. It's like, yes, we're going to learn this. And once that contract is over and you keep trying to move forward with them, it feels like you're swimming upstream because that contract has completed, but you keep trying to make it work and make it work. And that's same with friendships too. But we do typically have either one or a couple, because you'll see also elderly people, when they lose their spouses, they'll remarry, like life partners, basically. Yeah. But just because you sign a contract with someone doesn't mean it is always going to be completed. So you know that you have free will and choice to do whatever you want. Right now, you're like, okay, I'm good. We have everything together. I'm excited to marry. But next day you can wake up and be like, you know what? I'm going to break this off and I'm moving to Australia. Because you have free will and choice to do whatever it is that you desire. So for example, if that happened, this person that you're with now would have, and I don't want to call them like backup soulmates, but there's other contracts that could be fulfilled after if you decided to break it.
Absolutely. And I believe in that so much because I feel like I love the saying reason, season, or lifetime. And being present and in the moment. And, Jeff, my partner, and I, what we say all the time is we wake up every day and we choose one another. It's a choice. And we love that we choose one another. And if there ever comes a moment in time where we're repetitively not wanting to choose one another, then what's the point of staying?
Yeah.
And being okay with like, we can't predict what will happen, but we're going to love each other fiercely now and hopefully till the end of our days. But once again, like it's a feeling and you can't mask a feeling. It will get stronger and stronger and stronger.
Absolutely. It is a choice for sure. And you do have to wake up and you have to be like, okay, we're going to make it work, or we want to make it work. That's a big thing too. But yeah, like I said, if anyone's out there, and I know how hard it can feel when you lose your person, it's like, that's my person. I'm supposed to be with them. And maybe you are, maybe you were, but if that contract was broken on either end, there is always someone else and they're not a backup. Like, for example, I was the one that got broken up with my twin flame, and it hurt for so long. I was like, this is the person I'm supposed to be with. Like, what is going on? And then you meet someone else who fulfills that contract. Obviously they're completely different people, but you're like, oh, this is what it is supposed to be like. So I follow Ainsley McLeod, and he studies past life relationships, and he's been doing this for like 40 years. He's done hundreds, maybe thousands of past life readings. And he said, in all my time of doing this, I have only met 2 or 3 people that actually sign contracts that they come here to be alone. They are not supposed to end up in a romantic relationship. He goes, that is extremely rare. So majority, 99.99% of the population comes here and is supposed to end up in a partnership.
Mm, that's so interesting. When I'm curious to know, because we're, using the word contract so often here, have you read Sacred Contracts by Karla?
No, I haven't.
Oh, do you know her work at all?
No.
Oh, okay. She's written a book called The Anatomy of the Spirit. And it's all about like understanding the energy of the chakra system and how our the anatomy of our spirit, like our spirit has so much to it. So that's one book. But then she also has another book, and it's like textbook worthy. It's a book, but you could study it, and it's called Sacred Contracts, and it talks about like different archetypes, and then contracts that we can come into our lives. So you might really like it. And if you're on Gaia at all, she has a whole series on Gaia. She's quite fabulous. She was here in Victoria a couple of years ago and did a facilitation, but yeah, you'd really like her work.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely look that up.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so Karla, let's talk about what do you love to offer the most? So when people are listening to this and they're like, okay, I want to work with Karla, what can that look like? What is your favorite way to work with people, and how do you infuse your work with your psychic intuitive abilities?
That's a good question, because I love so many things, and I am ADHD, like diagnosed. And so I like trying all different things and then coming back. Like it's hard for me to focus on one thing. But some of my favorite things are my soul purpose readings. And they're so fun. They're so in depth. It takes me like 3 or 4 hours to do a reading. And I dive into like people's natal charts. I look into numerology. I look into like your Akashic records, which are like all your soul contracts into one. And I determine and just convey back to you like what your purpose is here, what you're supposed to do, what your mission is, how you're supposed to go about it. So it's kind of like this document of it's just a recording of me, but it's like, what are you supposed to do and how do you execute it? So, which is really cool. Like those are one of my favorite readings. I do a lot of oracle and tarot card reads just for fun. Like people will be like, hey, what's going on with my career? Like, what does the next month look like? Or, hey, I'm seeing this person, like, what would this turn out? And I always tell people everything is always set in sand, not in stone. What I read now could change.
Yeah.
We all have free will and choice. Energy changes at any point in time, but those are always a lot of fun. I really enjoyed those. But like I said before, my favorite thing is life coaching. And to me, it's like, it's so much more than coaching, but I do call myself a coach, but I also call myself a spiritual guide. So what I specialize in is helping people that are just started on their journey and they are lost and confused, maybe scared, and they don't know what to do. And they're like, they just hit a wall, like something has to change. I don't know what, but I need to fix it. And now, so I work with people typically in crisis mode. That is my specialty. I know what it's like to hit rock bottom many times. I know what it's like to be in their shoes and how to move forward from that. I had a client who was having struggles with, after she had her spiritual awakening, going back into society. She was like, I can't have normal conversations. Like people annoy me. I don't want to have small talk about the weather. And she's like, I feel like an alien. And so I helped her get back into that, like how to go back to work, how to talk to people, how to get grounded, tools and resources that she could utilize that have helped her. And on our one-on-one calls, they're basically like this. And we sit and we talk for 60 minutes about whatever you want. Sometimes it's business, sometimes it's about, their love life. And it's so many different things. It's like having a spiritual guide who's like an unbiased friend.
Yeah, that's a great description. I think that's needed.
Yeah, I find like there are a lot of coaches for this, but a lot of them are like, hey, like, we can work together, like you're already doing this or you've already started this. But I haven't found a lot of people call them like baby witches, even if you don't identify with the witch term. um just starting, I'm like, who's there to help them when they just start? I'm like, I want to help them.
Yeah. Okay. I think that will be helpful for people listening to know, like, okay, yeah, I fall into that category. I definitely want to reach out to her and make something happen. I love that you're also into astrology. I mean, I love tarot, I love astrology, I love numerology, I love all the
It's all
woo.
fun. Yeah.
And yeah, it's so interesting the more I dive into astrology and understanding, like, oh, I am definitely my chart. Like, there is no denying that. And for me, it's like fun to now start to guess, like, oh, I could maybe guess, like, maybe not your actual sign, but like, are you fire sign? Are you an earth sign? Like, it's like the energy that people give off. It's like, oh, it just is. Like, there's
Yeah.
no denying it. Like, the natal chart describes people so accurately.
Yes. And you pick your chart. Did you know that? You pick it, you pick your name, you pick your parents, how you live, how you die. You literally choose everything. But sometimes that can get interfered with other people's free will if they decide to do something, like, if there's a car accident or drinking and driving, part of me, like that can be taken away from you, but you choose it. So you chose how like your personality was going to be in this life, which is so cool.
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting because like, I am a fire sign, I'm Aries, and I am fire through and through. I'm in like Chinese is it Chinese
Any
astrology?
zodiac?
Yeah, Chinese zodiac. I'm fire tiger. In
Mm,
astrology, I'm fire sign. In Ayurvedic practices, I'm fire. And so it's so interesting because I was born like 6 weeks early. So had I been born when I was supposed to, I would have been a Taurus. And I feel like I'm not a Taurus. I'm not earthy at all. Like, there's nothing about me that is like grounded. I am up here and like, ah! So it's just so interesting to be like, oh yeah, I was meant to come out when I did and be this way.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. You chose that. And you're
Mhm.
like, yep, this is actually what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so great.
And see, I
Um,
was gonna guess air sign for you, but do you have an air moon? Do you have a Gemini moon?
Libra.
Oh, Libra. Okay, well, you do have an air moon. Yeah, that makes sense because that's like your moods, like how you communicate, not how you communicate, but kind of it's like your feelings. I
Yeah.
could see
I'm
that.
I'm Libra moon and Libra rising.
Okay, that would make sense.
Yeah. So fire and air.
Yeah.
That is me for sure. So, Karla, let's talk about what's going on, what's coming up for you. Are you taking people to work with? How can they get a hold of you? What does that look like?
So the best way to get a hold of me is probably Instagram or my website. It's thewooWooExperience.com or at the woo woo experience. It's WOOWOO. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Like, I answer people like pretty quickly through email. It's all the same on all platforms. I had taken like a bit of a hiatus for summer. I was like, I'm a notorious workaholic, and I was like, I'm going to take this summer and just show up when I feel like it and just really just like relax. And I did that. And then I went to go back to work. This might be like triggering for anyone who's listening, but I went to go back to work, and then I ended up finding out I was pregnant after like 4 years of infertility. And
Mhm.
then I did miscarry. And
Oh,
so I have not showed up for like a month, maybe longer. I couldn't, like, I mentally, physically couldn't get on there.
yeah.
And then I was talking to my husband, I was sad, and I was like, I feel like, and I don't care about followers, but I feel like I'm letting people down. Every time I come back on, people are like, I missed you. And, I feel like I should put stuff out there. And he goes like, don't show up just to show up. He's like, you preach about being authentic.
Mhm.
Like, he's like, you need to just stay authentic. And that's something is not important right now, showing up. So I'm feeling like it's coming. Like, you know, when you feel that pot, it's bubbling and it's
Yeah.
about to like bubble over. That's what I feel like. It's like coming, and I'm working on stuff. I'm working my website, adding a bunch of things. My mom makes like really cool crystal jewelry and stuff. I'm adding a bunch of that to my website. So I'm working a lot behind the scenes, but for anyone out there that's like been through that or been through anything difficult, just know like you don't have to show up. Probably there might be people that miss you. Probably people don't notice. And you just need to do what's best for you at the end of the day.
I think that's really important. I have very close people in my life. Like my closest circle is experiencing a lot of what you just shared with that. And I think that permission to say, by you role modeling, stepping back and taking time, that will just remind people of the human experience. Like we can't be on all the time. You don't have to be on all the time. Life is going to throw you experiences that are asking you to go in, to rest.
Yes, absolutely. And so right now I'm in a period of winter.
Mm-hmm.
Kind
Yeah.
of laying dormant for a bit. It's going to be spring soon though, even though we're actually going into winter in
Deep
Canada.
hibernation.
Yeah, coming out soon.
So, Karla, one last set of two questions that I always like to ask everybody is, what do you feel like your purpose is in this season of life? I feel like our purpose is always evolving as we evolve, but like right now for this period of time, what do you feel like your purpose is?
That's a good question. I feel like my purpose is to really nurture and care for myself. And I'm always learning to reparent my inner child and really like listen to her and treat her with respect and love. And I think right now I just need to continue to do that. And what was the second question?
And then the second
Oh,
question,
you hadn't asked it.
yeah, I haven't asked yet, so it's totally fine, is how do you know when you're in alignment with your purpose?
Ooh, you know you're in alignment, and this is like confusing because I thought for the longest time it meant like bad things didn't happen, you know, you feel good all the time. That's not true, and it's just like not reality for
Mhm.
anyone, right? There's always shit that happens. There's sometimes, you know, you go through periods where you don't feel well, but alignment to me feels like not swimming against the tide. It's just like a smooth go, and like, yeah, of course sometimes there's big waves that crash and things that happen, but you don't feel like you're swimming against it all the time. There are things that happen and occur, but for most of the time things go smoothly. They just happen, you know, like clients just show up, people ask for readings, or whatever it is that you do in your life, and it's like things just happen and they work out.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like, you know, everything's against you all the time.
Yeah, I love that description. Hmm. I love asking those questions because it's different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really beautiful to hear from you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much. This has been such a like interesting and enjoyable conversation to have, and I can't wait to stay connected to you and to look into a soul purpose reading. That's really
Yes, I would love
piqued
those are
my
my favorite.
interest. And yeah, for anybody else who's listening, I will make sure that all the ways you can connect with Karla are available in the show notes of the podcast and on the MAP TV over on YouTube. And reach out to Karla, let her know if you listen to this episode, what you're taking away from her teachings and her knowledge. And yeah, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good day.